The British Empire, once the largest empire in history. How did it rise to power? In this video, we're uncovering 50 fascinating facts about its incredible journey to dominance. From the first tentative voyages across the Atlantic to the height of its power, we'll trace the footsteps of this mighty empire. The rise of the British Empire began with a whisper of ambition in the courts of the Tudors, particularly under the reign of Henry VIII. It was John Cabot, a Venetian explorer sailing for England, whose voyages in the late 15th century planted the first seeds of British ambition on distant shores. The late 15th century marked the dawn of the Age of Discovery, with European powers, including England, embarking on a quest to chart the unknown reaches of the world. Queen Elizabeth I, a monarch of remarkable cunning and ambition, ascended to the throne in 1558. Her reign would prove pivotal in establishing England as a formidable maritime power. Sir Francis Drake epitomized the audacity of English privateers. These seafaring adventurers disrupted Spain's maritime dominance and funneled vast wealth back to England. In the year 1600, a trading behemoth was born. The East India Company, with its sights set on the riches of the East, would become the driving force behind British influence in Asia. In the year 1607, the first permanent English settlement in North America was established at Jamestown, Virginia. It marked the beginning of British influence in the Americas. Sugar, the white gold of the Caribbean, fueled the insatiable appetite of the British Empire. The sugar trade transformed the Caribbean into a lucrative engine of British wealth. The English Civil War, a period of internal strife and upheaval, shook the very foundations of the monarchy. Yet from the ashes of this conflict, the seeds of future expansion were sown. The year 1660 heralded the return of the monarchy with Charles II at its helm. His reign marked a return to aggressive imperial expansion, particularly in the Caribbean. The 17th century witnessed the inexorable rise of British naval dominance. By the 18th century, the British Navy stood unrivaled, a testament to British shipbuilding and naval prowess. The 7 Years' War, a global conflict of epic proportions, pitted Britain against its arch-rival France. British victory had far-reaching consequences, solidifying its dominance in North America. British influence in India began subtly in the 17th century. However, it was the 18th century that saw Britain's ascent to paramount power. The Battle of Plassey, a pivotal moment in Indian history, witnessed British forces outmaneuvering the Nawab of Bengal. This decisive victory paved the way for British dominance in India. The British Caribbean islands, with names like Jamaica and Barbados, became synonymous with the bitter-sweet taste of sugar. The wealth generated from these sugar islands fueled the empire's insatiable hunger for expansion. British colonial ambitions turned towards the vast continent of Africa in the late 19th century. Beginning with Cape Colony, British influence spread like wildfire across the African landscape. The Opium Wars, a dark chapter in British history, saw Britain clash with China over the highly lucrative opium trade. British victory secured control of Hong Kong and significant influence within China. The Industrial Revolution, a period of unprecedented technological advancement, began in Britain in the late 18th century, providing the tools and resources to fuel its global ambitions. The Treaty of Paris, signed in 1763, marked the end of the 7 Years' War and formalized Britain's territorial gains in North America. The transatlantic slave trade, a dark stain on human history, cast a long shadow over the British Empire. The forced labor of enslaved Africans on plantations in the Americas fueled the empire's economic engine. The year 1815 marked a turning point in European history. The defeat of Napoleon at Waterloo ensured Britain's continued dominance on the world stage. Following the upheaval of the Indian Rebellion of 1857, the British Crown took direct control of India, ushering in the era of the British Raj. The Suez Canal, a marvel of engineering, opened in 1869, connecting the Mediterranean Sea to the Red Sea. The late 19th century witnessed a scramble for control of the African continent. Queen Victoria's reign, spanning from 1837 to 1901, became synonymous with the zenith of British power and influence. The Anglo-Zulu War of 1879, a clash of empires in southern Africa, saw British forces ultimately prevail over the Zulu kingdom. The Second Boer War, fought between 1899 and 1902, was a bitter and costly conflict that cemented British control over South Africa. British colonisation of Australia, a vast and ancient land, began in 1788. By the early 20th century, the seeds of self-governance were sown. The vast expanse of the Pacific Ocean became a stage for British imperial ambitions. The establishment of British colonies in East Africa, encompassing Kenya, Uganda, and Tanzania, solidified Britain's presence in the region. The First World War, a conflict of unprecedented scale and devastation, had a profound impact on the British Empire. The collapse of the Ottoman Empire presented opportunities for further expansion. The Balfour Declaration of 1917, a landmark document in Middle Eastern history, expressed the British government's support for the establishment of a Jewish homeland in Palestine. This declaration had far-reaching consequences, shaping the geopolitical landscape of the region. By the early 20th century, the British Empire stood as an economic colossus. British control of Egypt, a strategic linchpin in the Middle East, secured vital trade routes, including the Suez Canal. The Indian Rebellion of 1857, also known as the Sepoy Mutiny, shook the foundations of British rule in India. Despite growing calls for independence and the abolition of slavery, Britain maintained its grip on its Caribbean colonies. The winds of change swept across the globe in the early 20th century. The American Revolution from 1775 to 1783 stands as a pivotal moment in the history of the British Empire. The aftermath of World War II marked a turning point for the British Empire. From the ashes of empire rose the Commonwealth of Nations. The Suez Crisis of 1956, a defining moment in post-war British history, exposed the limitations of Britain's diminishing global influence. The latter half of the 20th century witnessed the dismantling of the British Empire as former colonies gained their hard-fought independence. Despite the decline of its empire, Britain's influence continues to resonate on the world stage. The Falklands War of 1982, a brief but intense conflict with Argentina over the Falkland Islands, demonstrated Britain's willingness to defend its remaining overseas territories. In 1997, Hong Kong was peacefully returned to China after more than 150 years of British rule, marking the end of an era. The British Royal Navy, once the mightiest naval force the world had ever seen, played a pivotal role in establishing and maintaining the British Empire. The legal traditions of the British Empire continue to shape the world today. From the works of William Shakespeare to the music of the Beatles, British culture continues to captivate and influence audiences worldwide. The legacy of the British Empire's vast trade networks can still be felt today. The British Empire's rise and fall shaped the course of history and left a lasting impact on the modern world. From its humble beginnings to its zenith of power, the Empire's story is a complex tapestry of exploration, conflict, innovation, and cultural exchange.